I never thought I'd be the guy telling a story like this. Honestly, I thought I had life figured out, or at least I thought I knew who my wife was. We'd been married for 3 years, and in all that time, she seemed like the kind of woman who had her shit together. She was smart, funny, and she'd always been faithful, at least, that's what I believed. We were supposed to be the kind of couple that grew old together. That's what I wanted anyway. We had a small apartment in the city, nothing fancy, but it was ours. I worked a decent job and she had a good gig too. I won't lie, things weren't perfect. We had our fights like everyone does, but nothing that suggested anything was wrong on the surface. Until the day I found out everything was a lie. It was just a normal Tuesday. I was coming home from work, tired, thinking about dinner, maybe a drink or two to unwind. My phone buzzed as I unlocked the front door. I didn't pay it much attention. Most of the time, it was just spam calls or work emails. But then I saw the message preview and froze. It was from her. My stomach sank immediately. I unlocked the phone and read the message. It wasn't just a casual exchange. It was raw, desperate, and full of betrayal. I saw her words, flirty, intimate, and way too familiar. The kind of messages that make your blood run cold when you realize the person you trusted most was actively lying to your face. "Can't wait to see you tonight," one said. "I've been thinking about you all day," another. The worst part was the timestamp, just an hour before I was supposed to walk through that door. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. My palms grew slick and my vision blurred around the edges. I grabbed her phone, clutching it tightly so I wouldn't drop it. I stared at the screen, my mind racing. How long had this been going on? Was I a fool to trust her, or was she just better at hiding it? I couldn't believe it. My wife, the woman I'd loved and trusted, was cheating on me with my best man. The worst betrayal I could have imagined. The guy who was supposed to stand by me, to be my brother in arms, was the one she was sneaking around with. The phone slipped from my grasp and clattered to the floor. I couldn't breathe. My throat tightened and a hot wave of anger surged through me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hit something. Instead, I just stood there, staring at her phone like the world was about to shatter. How could she do this? How could she, after all the plans we made, the future we talked about? That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the look in her eyes when she sent those messages. The way she touched her hair nervously when she lied. The tiny lies she told me about where she was, nothing added up anymore. It was all too perfect, too rehearsed. She had been hiding this for months, probably longer. I couldn't help but notice the little things now, her sudden disappearances, her secretive phone habits, the way she'd flush when I'd ask her about her day. Red flags, maybe, but I always shrugged them off. I thought I knew her. Turns out I was blind. I decided I didn't want to confront her right away. No, I needed to think, to plan. I had to find a way to get her to admit everything on her own. I couldn't just storm in and accuse her without proof. But deep down, I knew I'd catch her in a lie. I had to. That night, as I lay in bed, I felt a strange mixture of nausea and adrenaline. The kind of feeling that makes your stomach churn and sweat bead on your forehead. I kept clenching my fists, trying to keep a level head. I had to be smart. I had to be patient. Because once I had what I needed, she wouldn't get away with this. I started looking through her stuff, her emails, social media accounts. I wanted to know everything. I needed to understand how long this had been going on, how deep it ran. I found some texts on her laptop, more messages confirming what I'd seen. I kept reading, feeling my anger simmer and grow. The betrayal was worse than I ever imagined, and I knew I couldn't just let it go. I had a plan forming, a plan that would hit her where it hurt most. But I wasn't ready to execute it yet. I had to be patient. I had to be precise, because once I started, there would be no turning back. This wasn't just about catching her. It was about ending this lie once and for all, about reclaiming what was mine, and I was done playing nice. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My stomach was tied in knots and my head throbbed from the sleepless night. I kept replaying everything, the messages, her face when I found out, the cold fury ticking inside me. I knew I had to act fast, but I also knew I had to be careful. I couldn't let her catch me off guard. I went through her messages again, trying to find any pattern, any indication of how long this had been going on. I noticed a few things. Her code words for meetings, late-night calls, and most telling of all, the way she'd always be quick to hide her phone from me. She'd slip it into her purse when I came around, act busy on her laptop when I entered the room. Little things now that screamed she'd been hiding something, but I'd ignored them at the time. I decided I'd need more than just her phone, so I started looking at her social media accounts. She had a secret Instagram account, one she kept hidden from me. I found it buried under a fake name, full of pictures of her and my best man, laughing, holding hands, whispering secrets in private. That was the proof I needed. She'd been planning this for a while. The image of them together made my blood boil. They looked so comfortable, so happy. It was the kind of picture that made my fists clench. I could see her cheeky smile, his smug face, the way they leaned into each other like they didn't have a care in the world. It hit me hard. She'd been living a double life and I'd been blind to it. I knew I had to confront her eventually, but not just yet. I needed to set a trap, gather more evidence, and make sure I had everything nailed down. I didn't want her to be able to deny it once I brought her face to face with the truth. I wanted her cornered like a rat. So I started my plan. First, I installed a discreet app on her phone to monitor her messages and calls. I knew it was risky, but I had to be sure. I wanted to catch her in the act if I could. I kept my cool, hiding in the shadows of her secret life while she went about her days. Every ping of her phone made my heart race. Was this it? Was she finally slipping up? I also kept an eye on her schedule. She told me she was working late, but I knew better. Her phone records showed she had plans that night with someone I didn't recognize. I managed to get a glimpse of a location she was heading toward. It was a small, out-of-the-way hotel on the edge of town, the place she'd go for her secret meetings. On the night she left, I followed her. I kept a safe distance, blending into the shadows. When she went into that hotel, I parked just around the corner and watched her through the window. I saw her slip inside, her face flushed, her hands trembling slightly. There was a nervousness I'd never seen before. Whatever was happening, it was real to her. I stayed silent, my stomach twisting not tight. I wasn't just angry anymore, I was hurt, betrayed, humiliated. But I knew I couldn't just burst in there without a plan. I had to be smart about this. I needed to gather everything that would blow her world apart. The next morning, I sat in my apartment reviewing everything I had. Emails, texts, that secret Instagram account, her location from last night. I knew I had enough now. Enough to destroy her if I wanted. But I also knew I had to think carefully about my next move. I couldn't just storm in and accuse her. No, I had to be methodical, calculated. I decided I'd set the trap for her, not just to catch her in the act again, but to make her face the full weight of her betrayal. I'd play the waiting game, let her think she was getting away with it, then strike when she least expected. I'd arrange for my best man to be in the same place at the right time, with evidence in hand. The plan was coming together. As I sat there, I could feel the heat of my anger simmering just beneath the surface. My mind kept replaying the sight of her secret meetings, the way her voice had trembled on the phone, the way she'd betrayed me so effortlessly. I clenched my fists, feeling that familiar, dull ache of betrayal. Now all that was left was execution. The moment I'd been waiting for. I'd be face to face with her soon, and there would be no more hiding. When I finally confronted her with everything, she'd realize just how far I was willing to go to end this. But even as I prepared myself, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The real storm was coming, and once it hit, there would be no turning back. I just hoped I was ready for what came next. The day I finally decided to confront her felt like walking into a storm with no clear escape route. I'd spent days gathering every shred of evidence I could find, screenshots of her secret Instagram, copies of her messages, her location data from last night. It was a mountain of proof that she couldn't deny. I was ready. At least, I told myself I was. She was home that afternoon, nervously pacing around the apartment, avoiding eye contact. Her face was pale, her eyes darted everywhere like she was waiting for something to fall from the sky and crush her. She knew I wasn't stupid anymore. I could see it in her trembling hands, the way she kept trying to smooth out her clothes, the fake smile she was forcing on her face. I sat down at the table, my heart hammering in my chest. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. She finally sank onto the couch, her shoulders slumping, not even trying to hide her guilt anymore. "Who were you meeting last night?" I asked coldly, my voice steady but hard. She looked up at me, her eyes wide with fear. I don't know what you're talking about, she whispered. Oh, come on, I said, holding up my phone with all the evidence. I know everything. The messages, the secret Instagram, the hotel. How long has this been going on? Her face crumpled. She looked like a kid caught with her hand in the cookie jar. It was just one mistake, she mumbled. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I felt my stomach twist, the rage bubbling under my skin. One mistake, do you realize how much you've destroyed? Do you? Please, she begged, tears spilling down her face. I was scared. I didn't know how to tell you. It was a stupid mistake, I swear. It meant nothing. Nothing, I shot back. It meant nothing to you that you were sneaking around, lying to my face. That's the kind of thing you call nothing. She broke down then, sobbing uncontrollably. I didn't want it to happen. I was stupid. I was weak. That's when I saw the cracks in her facade, the desperation, the guilt spilling out like poison. But I also knew deep down that I couldn't just walk away from this, not after everything. No, I had a plan, a final move I was going to make. I want you to leave, I said quietly, voice steeled with resolve. Pack your things, you're done here. Her eyes widened further. Please. No, you made your choice. I'm not going to stick around and be a fool anymore. I stood up, feeling my hands tremble but keeping my voice firm. You're out of my life. Don't come back. She looked at me as if I just punched her in the gut. Her shoulders sagged and she nodded, tears flowing freely now. I'm sorry, she whispered, voice cracking. I watched her go into the bedroom, pack a bag in silence. The air was thick with tension, heavy with betrayal. As she left, I felt a strange emptiness, a mixture of relief and heartbreak. But I knew this wasn't over. Not yet. That night I sat alone in the dark, my mind racing. I replayed everything, the lies, the betrayal, her desperate tears. I was angry, yes, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I'd been stupid to trust her so blindly. I'd been naive. But now I held the power. I had everything I needed to make her regret this. I spent the next few days carefully orchestrating my revenge. I wanted her to see that actions had consequences. I decided I'd make sure she paid in a way she'd never forget. It wasn't just about hurting her. It was about reclaiming my dignity, my self-respect. I'd show her what it meant to betray someone who once loved her. I reached out to my best man, the one she'd been cheating with. I told him everything I knew about her secret meetings, her lies, her plans. I made it clear that I needed him on my side. We were going to make her see what her actions had cost her. Over the next few days, I set my plan into motion. I bought a new phone, one she wouldn't recognize. I set up a fake social media profile, one that looked innocent but was designed to lure her out. I knew she'd be curious, and I wanted her to fall into my trap. Finally, I arranged for my best man to meet her at a place I controlled, a neutral spot carefully chosen. I wanted her to believe she was sneaking away one last time, unaware that I was watching and that everything was about to unravel for her. I was ready. The pieces were in place. As I watched her walk into that meeting spot, I felt a rush of satisfaction and cold anticipation. This was going to end, one way or another. And I knew deep down that once I had her cornered, there'd be no forgiveness, just the bitter taste of justice. Would she see it coming? Probably not. But I was done. Playing the fool, time to make her pay. The day I set my plan in motion, my stomach was tied in knots again, this time from a different kind of tension. I sat in my car, hidden behind the bushes just a few feet from where she was supposed to meet my best man. I kept my eyes glued to her, watching her walk in with that nervous, fake smile she always wore when she was trying to hide her guilt. She didn't see me. She never did. That was exactly what I wanted. I'd made sure everything was perfect. Her phone was set up with the fake profile I'd created, and I was watching her every move. She slid into the booth, glancing around nervously, then finally her eyes settled on him. They started talking, but I already knew what they were planning. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of days of planning press down on me. I had to stay calm, stay patient. This was the moment when all my waiting would pay off. I watched her lean in, whispering something I couldn't hear, but her body language told me she was nervous, guilty maybe. He looked confident, a smug grin on his face. They were about to get caught. Then I saw it, the moment I'd been waiting for. Her hand reached across the table, and I knew she was about to send that message, that last little piece of proof that would shatter everything. I kept the phone steady, ready to capture it all. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. She fished it out of her purse, glanced at the screen, and hesitated. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, then she typed out a message. I snapped photos, recording the whole thing. The words she sent confirmed what I'd suspected all along. The affair was ongoing, and she'd been planning her escape route for weeks. My heart pounded. I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and rage. All the waiting, all the plotting, this was it. I finally had her exactly where I wanted her, exposed and cornered. As she looked up from her phone, I stepped out of my hiding spot. I wanted her to see me, to know I'd been watching all along. Her eyes widened like she'd seen a ghost. I could see her panic, her mind scrambling for an excuse. I approached slowly, calm but fierce. Didn't think I'd find out, huh? I said, voice low and cold. All those lies, all those secret meetings, you really thought you could get away with it? She tried to speak, but the words caught in her throat. Her face was flushed, eyes darting around for some way out. I could see her trembling, her composure cracking. You've been sneaking around with my best man, I continued. That's pretty low. You really thought I wouldn't find out, that I wouldn't catch you? Her lips trembled, and she finally managed. Please, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was stupid. No more excuses, I snapped. You've got nowhere to run now. I've got all the proof I need, and I've got one question: why? Her knees buckled a little, and she looked away, tears streaming down her face. I was lonely. I felt like I wasn't enough. I didn't want to hurt you, but I was so drawn to him. It was a mistake, I swear. I clenched my fists, feeling my jaw tight. The betrayal cut deep, but I had to stay focused. She was trying to manipulate me, trying to make me feel guilty, but I wasn't falling for that. I want you to leave, pack your things, I said quietly but firmly. You're done here, you're not coming back. She nodded slowly, tears still falling. I'm sorry, she whispered again, voice breaking. I love you, but I messed up. Love? I scoffed. You don't love me if you're sleeping with my best man. That's not love, that's betrayal. I watched as she gathered her purse, her head bowed, defeated. She hesitated at the door, then finally left without another word. I stayed there a moment longer, feeling the weight lifting but the pain still lingering. The aftermath was almost worse than the betrayal. I knew I'd broken her. She'd lost everything, and I'd made sure she knew it. But deep down, I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I'd finally taken back control. I'd made her pay for her lie, and I was done being the fool. In the days that followed, I cleaned out the apartment. I handed her the keys, told her to stay away. I wanted nothing more to do with her. Every memory, every lie gone. I cut her out completely. For my own sanity. Now I sit here thinking about what I've learned. Trust is fragile. Betrayal is a slow burn, and revenge, it's best served cold. I don't regret what I did. If she thought she could cheat and get away with it, she was dead wrong. And as for the guy, he's learned a lesson too. You don't betray your best friend and expect to get away scot-free. The biggest lesson: never ignore the red flags, because once you see them, it's already too late. Now I'm just trying to move on, but I'll never forget what she did. And I'll always remember that at the end of the day, the truth tends to come out sooner or later. The silence after she left was deafening. I sat in the apartment, staring at the empty space where she'd once been, feeling the aftershock of everything that just happened. My chest was heavy, not from exhaustion, but from the weight of betrayal I'd just carried out. It was almost surreal, like I'd been living in a nightmare I'd never wake up from. But I knew I'd done the right thing, or at least I told myself that. Over the next few days, I stayed busy, trying to force my mind away from the betrayal. I threw myself into work, kept my friends close, and avoided the apartment completely. Deep down, I felt relief, but also a gnawing emptiness. I'd trusted her with everything, and she'd thrown it all away for a moment of weakness. I kept replaying her face when she saw me standing there, the panic in her eyes, the tears streaming down her face. That image would stay with me for a long time, but I couldn't let myself drown in the past. I had to keep moving forward. I knew I'd need to find a way to rebuild my life without her, and part of that was making sure she understood she'd lost everything that mattered. One night I sat in a bar trying to drown out the ache in my chest. I'd already cut ties with her entirely, but I needed closure. I needed to see her finally realize what she'd thrown away. I didn't plan to contact her. I just wanted her to feel the pain of her own choices. That's when I saw her. Not in person, but on social media. She posted a picture, some stupid selfie, with a caption about finally finding herself and moving forward. That phrase made me laugh bitterly. Moving forward. She had no idea what moving forward really meant, not without me. I stared at it, feeling a mix of fury and contempt. She thought she could just erase me and start over like nothing had happened. That was fine. I wanted her to think she was free, but she was, not yet. I decided I'd give her a gift, one last reminder of what she'd lost. I knew her habits well enough now. I knew she liked to keep tabs on her exes to see if she still had power over them, so I crafted a little plan. I created a fake account, anonymous, untraceable, and started following her. I liked some of her photos, commented innocently but with just enough edge to make her wonder. Then I sent her a message. Just a simple, "Hey, I saw your post. Hope you're doing okay." Nothing threatening, just enough to get her attention. I kept it casual, but I knew she'd notice it. And I was right. She responded quickly, acting surprised but not angry. "Who is this?" she asked. Her fingers trembled on the screen, I could tell. Good, that's exactly what I wanted. I responded with a simple, "Just someone who cares about what happened. Thought you might want to talk." That was the start. I wanted her to stew in her own guilt, to realize that even in her new life, she'd never truly escape what she'd done. I wasn't going to threaten her. I just wanted her to feel the weight of her choices. Because that's what revenge really was, making her see that her actions had consequences, even if she tried to run away from them. She didn't reply immediately, but I kept watching. I knew she'd come back. She'd want to know who I was, why I was following her. That's when I'd strike again. Not with threats or anger, but with the truth, her truth, and the realization that she'd lost her chance with me forever. My mind kept drifting back to that moment, replaying the feel of her betrayal, the way her voice cracked when she begged for forgiveness. But it was too late for that now. I'd already taken everything from her that mattered. All I had to do was wait, just a little longer. I knew this wasn't over, far from it. But what mattered now was that she understood she'd messed with the wrong guy. I'd made sure of that. And no matter how far she ran, she'd never outrun what she'd done. The message was clear: betrayal doesn't go unpunished. It follows you. It eats at you. And someday she'd realize that her actions had left her completely alone. I sat back, finished my drink, and made a silent vow. This was just the beginning of her consequences. I'd watch, I'd wait, and I'd make sure she paid every single day for what she'd done. Because at the end of the day, betrayal deserves to be repaid. And I was just getting started. That night, after watching her post and feeling the cold satisfaction of her discomfort, I knew I had crossed a line. But honestly, I didn't care anymore. She'd pushed me to the edge, and I'd finally pushed back hard enough. No more pretending everything was okay, no more playing the fool. That chapter of my life was officially closed. I gathered my belongings, took a deep breath, and headed to the lawyer's office. I had already prepared everything: the paperwork, the divorce papers, the keys. As I handed over the documents, I felt a strange mix of relief and determination. It was time to sever every tie, to reclaim my life from the wreckage of her betrayal. "Here's everything," I said, voice steady. "I want this done as soon as possible." The lawyer nodded. "You're making the right choice. It'll be final, no loopholes." Walking out of that office, I felt lighter, like a heavy shroud had been lifted from my shoulders. I knew she'd try to reach out, try to guilt-trip me or plead her case. But I wasn't interested anymore. She lost her right to my trust forever. I went home that evening, sat in my apartment alone, and finally allowed myself to breathe. I looked around at the empty space where her things used to be, at the silence that now felt so much better than her lies. I thought about what I'd learned from this. Trust is fragile, betrayal is ruthless, and revenge isn't about hurting just to hurt. It's about reclaiming what's yours, about making someone see the truth they refuse to face. As I poured myself a drink, I realized I'd never be the same, but I'd be stronger. I'd learned to see through the lies and never let anyone betray me like that again. She thought she could walk away free, thinking she'd gotten away with it, but she hadn't. Not really. I hope she's miserable. I hope she feels the weight of what she lost, because that's what she deserved. Not just for cheating, but for lying, for destroying what we had. She burned that bridge and I wasn't going to rebuild it. And as I sit here now writing this, I realize something important. Sometimes the only way to truly heal is to cut everything off, to start fresh with no baggage, no regrets. I've done that. I've taken back my life, my dignity, my peace. So here's my advice: trust your instincts. When red flags start waving, don't ignore them, because the truth will come out eventually, and when it does, you'll need to be ready. Protect yourself, stand your ground, and never let anyone make you feel small for demanding honesty. In the end, betrayal only wins if you let it. But if you fight back, if you take control, you'll find your strength, and maybe even a better life on the other side.